Good evening. I'm Kelly Wright. Thanks for joining me as we spend the next hour together. I do sincerely hope that you're safe and well, taking care of yourself and your family because you matter. Coming up tonight, we're going to be hearing from Jerron Smith. He's a special assistant to the President of the United States. He'll join us from the White House to discuss the White House initiative on Black America. And then we'll hear from Timothy Allen Simon, who is the chairman of the board of directors of the California Black Chamber of Commerce, to comment on what Jerron Smith will tell us in tonight's program. And then to keep you positive and motivated and encouraged, we'll hear from Erica Lynn, a dynamic young woman who has accomplished much against great odds. She'll talk to us about how to change pain into power. But first, some opening observations. Your vote matters. I've stated it before and can't stress it enough. With a week away from the election of the next president of the United States, it's important for Black Americans to understand just how pivotal their vote is. Now, we're not monolithic. Some of us vote to the right, some of us vote to the left. But whatever you do, make sure you exercise your right to vote. Don't give up now, because so many people have laid down their lives in order for you to have the opportunity and the right to vote, and vote as if your life depended on it. That's how pivotal and historical this election is, especially in the midst of a pandemic. And those are my opening observations. So anytime we're going through a lot of negative situations, and indeed we are in the midst of this pandemic, it's always refreshing to get some inspiration and some positivity in the mix. So joining me now to do just that is Erica Lynn, and she is here to speak to us about changing our perceptions of life, that even though we go through negative situations, there is still something we can do to accentuate the positive in our lives. Erica, thanks for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me on your show. And you are absolutely correct. We all go through negative things. I just call that life. Life just somehow knocks you upside your head and you feel like, I don't want to get back up. But in the event that things happen to you, it is imperative that you get back up. And if you don't know how, then you learn the tools that you need in order to help you get back up. Because sometimes people feel like they can't share it with anyone else or they're at it alone. But reality is everybody goes through something. It's just how they get over it, what they use, what tools they use, what people that they surround themselves in order to help them get back up and stand on their own 2 feet in order to move forward. So it is imperative for people to move forward and don't stay stagnant in that place, but instead take the steps beyond yourself into moving forward.
Let's unpack that a bit. You said quite a bit in that, Erica Lynn. You talked about don't stay stagnant. And that's easy to do in this coronavirus pandemic, which has exacerbated a lot of people in terms of their economy, in terms of their health, and has even induced some fear. So how do you get out of that stagnation of uncertainty and the fear factor?
Well, given the fact that this pandemic was something that I don't think any of us had anticipated, and it was so easy because we lived in this fear, like what is going to happen tomorrow? It was almost as if the world was coming to an end. And when you watched all of the media that was surrounded 24 hours, it began to play into your psyche to where you kind of was almost going a little cuckoo in a sense from just watching just the lives lost and the sadness. And so you like, well, I just kind of really feel like giving it in the towel. Like, what do I have to live for if this is all that I have to see during this pandemic? But when you actually take a moment to meditate and you take a moment to ground your 2 feet, and so you think inwardly, like, if the world does not end tomorrow, what legacy am I going to leave? You know, what are people going to know me by? And those things kind of help move you forward, and you begin to kind of taking steps to moving forward. So for example, and I don't know if you fell victim to this, but everybody started eating during the pandemic. like eating uncontrollably, like the cookies, the cakes. You're like, well, if I'm gonna leave her, I might as well leave her happy. But then when you look down, you can't fit your pants. When the weather warmed up enough, when you can go outside, you couldn't fit your clothes. You're like, well, dang, well, what am I supposed to do? So one of the things that I personally did, I just got up and I started exercising in the living room every day. And then my mom, she tricked me. She challenged me. She said, well, can you do that live? So I did it live. And she said, well, can you just do it every day for the pandemic? I challenge you to do it for the pandemic. Well, you know, the pandemic was only supposed to be 15 days, Kelly, right? So I I end up working out every day for 60 days for the pandemic. But what I realized is I helped a lot of people that was dealing with eating the cookies and the cakes because they couldn't go outside, they couldn't do nothing. So I began a movement within what I could do to show you to put the cookies down and let's dance away the pounds. And so those are little things that you could do to help you to not be stuck, to move you forward, you know. And so that's an example of something that people can do.
Look, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk to Erica Lynn about what she's gone through personally to help us all professionally. Back with more after this. Welcome back to the program. So I've been talking about what it takes to be positive in the midst of these negative situations that we're confronted with on a daily basis because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Erica Lynn has stopped by to weigh in on these matters. Erica Lynn Speaks. Make sure you check her out online, ericalynnspeaks.com. And Erica, for all that you've been through personally, you have shown that there's power that can come from pain, and promise that can come from it, and hope over despair, and faith over fear. Tell me about the things that you've gone through in order to be able to stand or sit where you are today and look at the world and say, no matter what you're going through, no matter how bad it gets, you can overcome this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For me, my fears and my traumas came from me as a little girl. I just remember coming home from school when my dad had moved out of the house. And I was really, that devastated me. That caused what I term the daddy syndrome. You know, you're always looking for love in all the wrong places. You're looking for that love that your father is supposed to give you. You know, when he takes you on your first date, pulls the chair out for you and teaches you how a man is supposed to treat you, tell you you beautiful, so that when the first knuckleheads say, oh, you're gorgeous, you don't fall for anything because you know your self-worth and your value. Yeah. And so from that experience, I was just always searching for something or someone to give me that love that I was looking for. So I would gravitate to a lot of people, hoping that they would be that short term or borrowed flower. Sorry, borrowed. I can't even get it out. There's an interim father figure. And we had a neighbor that lived down the street from us. And this neighbor, my mom would say, well, go and ask him to take you to the store for me. Go and, do so and so. So one particular day, he took me to the grocery store. And I remember trying to get in the back seat of the car. And he says, well, no, ride in the front seat with me. I was like, no, I don't want to. So anyway, I got in the front seat and I remember sitting closest to the door as I could. And he says, well, why are you sitting so far? I said, because I want to look at the view. Well, to make a long story short, I remember him grabbing me gently, not rough, and pulling me close to him. And he began touching me and doing things that was inappropriate to a 13-year-old girl. Well, that totally sent me into this mental rat race where I just started running through life. I ran from everything. I didn't tell my mom when we got home because I didn't want my mom to end up, in prison from doing something to him. And so that was like my form of protecting her. But all through life, I started running. I started partying and hanging out, and I became a stripper at 17. I had my first child at 17, got married at 19, ended up in a 10-year abusive marriage with my husband. But when things began to change, I said, I have to take a stand for myself. I gotta fight for my kids. I gotta fight for my life. And I got out of that marriage and started moving forward. Well, I went back to college, Kelly, when I was 35 years old. And I said, finally, I'm off of welfare. I'm going to make a lot of money. My life is going to be great. I'm going to have that dream job, and everything in my life is finally going to be worth the pain that I went through. Well, do you know, when I graduated from college and I landed that dream job, I totally hit rock bottom after that. I said, wow, all that I went through, all that I fought for, why am I hitting rock bottom? I cried every day for a year while I was at work. I would go to work and put my back to my coworkers in my cubicle. And from 8 in the morning to 11 at night, 11 in the afternoon, 11 in the morning, I would cry. And I had no idea what was happening. But in hindsight, the same people who not per se hurt me, God chose to use me and to help heal me. I had to go through that healing process. My father came back in my life. We spent the last 3 years of his life loving on each other. He started instilling those things in me that I was always looking for, because at that time I was going through a second divorce, and I was afraid to sign the divorce papers. And when he got through, empowering me, I was happy to sign those divorce. Like, yes, I don't have to take this. And then another friend came into my life, and he began teaching me that all men are not bad. All men does not mean to hurt you. And then so I started experiencing love from a good place. And then let's not forget Pastor Leon McDonald from the Winter Circle Church. He started praying with me and loving me from a place of God. So this was a gentleman that I did not know, but he started showing me love that was coming from God, from a God's love. And I said, well, wow, this is amazing to really be able to have relationships with men that does not mean harm to me. And so just because I had those first experiences doesn't mean that I have to pour out my anger towards all men in the world, because all men are not bad. And so I believe that those experiences that I went through was because I needed to show other women that, yes, we go through things, but if you do the work, if you go through the healing process, you can get over it, and you don't have to make somebody else in your present pay for what happened to you in your past. And so that was the purpose of never give up, never quit. Because if you keep working at something, I know it's going to be rough. I know it's going to be tough. I know you're going to want to cry. You want to quit in the middle of the process. But if you don't give up, look at the end of the rainbow. Like, it's beautiful. It's all these colors. It's fantastic. I smile all the time now, Kelly.
We're coming back with much more after the break. You've been through a lot, and it's a remarkable story of your faith, of your hope, and your love. And I'm glad that the reunion with your father, your biological father, took place before he passed. And I'm also glad that he helped redeem your impression of men, because there are a lot of good men out here. Good men make mistakes, and mistakes can be made, but good men can come back and redeem themselves. And I think what you say is so important for this current time that we're living in, where people are confronted with so many things, bombarded with the negative news that goes on, bombarded with the pressures from COVID-19, bombarded with the pressures of racial division and political division, and just trying to get through life. And it's good that you could come on and talk about what you've been through life and how now you sit back and you enjoy life and you're actively engaged in living and caring for people. So, Erica Lynn, speak to us and tell us what you do, and leave us with a positive note so people can be inspired.
Well, I'm a motivational speaker, a transformational coach. I also have the podcast, Erica Lynn Speaks Podcast, and I am the author of the 7 Techniques of Healing. So what I do is I have one-on-one coaching programs. One of them is called Let Your Light Shine. So if you have that light inside of you and you've been holding it dormant, well, it's time to let it out and let it shine. And I'll work with you in the process that I'm going to help you help yourself go through the steps of shining that light. And then for all of those who say, hey, I'm not ready to work one-on-one, but I do want to work with someone, then you can come into my One Step Beyond You online group coaching program. And in this program, you have phenomenal tools that's available to you. The 7 Techniques of Healing online courses in there. I come in there bi-weekly, and you have access to me live in the online Q&A forum. You have access to the other members so that you get support from other like-minded individuals who can help build you up when you feel like you can't go anymore. And so the whole goal of all of this is, no matter what you go through, whether it's past, present, or things that you foresee in the future, you can always take a moment to breathe and look inwardly and dig deep down inside yourself and find that good things, those values, those things that was placed inside of you, and pull them up and fight for you. Fight for you. Don't give up. Never quit, and never give up. Always take one step beyond yourself.
I appreciate you, Erica, and thank you for motivating us and keeping us inspired. And the bottom line is that each and every one of us must be responsible and accountable for lifting each other up and never give up. Erica Lynn, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be back with my final word after this. And welcome back. I'd like to thank all of the guests who appeared on tonight's program. And I especially want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to watch. I appreciate each and every one of you. My final word is this. Erica Lynn is right. We must never, ever give up. Therefore, keep your hopes alive, keep your dream thriving, and never give up on your faith. Hopefully we've been righted, ignited, and united to keep spreading knowledge, love, freedom, and peace. Good night.
Just wait. It's coming on. The love train. Just give it time. Give it time. Get on board. That means you. And you and you. On the love train. Get on board. All creeds and colors. Brothers. All sisters and brothers. And sisters. On the love train. Get on board the love train. Everyone's invited. We're all united. On the love train. Get on board. All creeds and colors. My sisters and brothers.